Hi, this is our third video talking about quadratic functions. In the first video, I explained a little bit about what a quadratic function is and how we talk about it and think about it. In the second video, I went through the really complicated process of factoring quadratic functions. And in this video, this is the third one, I want to talk about using the quadratic equation to solve quadratic functions. And remember, when we're solving a quadratic function, essentially what we're doing is we're finding the places where it crosses the x-axis, which is usually going to be in two different places. So if my graph looks like this, you see how that curve crosses the x-axis in two different places. And that's what we're really interested in finding, because once I know that, I can start to graph the curve, which is another process that maybe I'll make a bonus fourth video for graphing quadratic functions. But for today, we're going to talk about the quadratic equation, okay. So the quadratic equation starts with x equals, and it's negative b plus or minus the square root of, and I'm going to make this pretty long, 4a, nope. So here is the quadratic equation. It is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of, I'm going to make this pretty long, b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So that's the entire quadratic equation. When I was in school, I had to memorize this, and I memorized it by learning a song. The good news is you don't have to memorize it, because when you go in to take the GED test, you will have an equation sheet, a formula sheet, and this is listed on the formula sheet right there. And all you need to do is look at it, know how do I find my A, B, and C, which we covered in the first video. How do I find my A, B, and C, and then plug them into this equation in order to find my two x values. So let's practice this with an equation. Let's practice this with a quadratic function here. So the first step is to identify your A, B, and C. Here my A is 1, my B is 2, and my C is negative 3. These are my three values that I'm going to use. And then I'll write out the whole quadratic equation. X equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. So that's my whole quadratic equation. And then I'm going to substitute. I'm going to rewrite this thing, but I'm going to substitute a value for b, for a, for c, everywhere I see those. So x equals negative b, so negative 2, plus or minus square root of b squared, so 2 squared, minus 4. A is 1. I'm going to put parentheses around that, recognizing that means multiplication. 4ac, all divided by 2a. Again, I'm going to use parentheses for multiplication. So that seems like a big, complicated equation. But notice a couple things. First, the only variable that I have left, the only variable that remains is x on the left side of the equation, x equals, and that's important. The other thing you should notice is all I need to do now, because all of my variables are gone on the right side of the equation, all I need to do now is follow the order of operations. If I follow the order of operations, I'm going to get to a point where I have my solutions. So let's start following the order of operations. We're going to take care of everything inside of that square root bracket first. So we'll say x equals -2 plus or minus the square root of, and let's think about this. Let me change color so that we can. Let me change color so that we can kind of see what's going on. I'll change to bright green. So here I have 2 squared. Sorry, I have 2 squared. That's going to become 4. Here I have -4 times 1 times -3. That's going to become positive 12. -4 times -3 is positive 12. So I have 4 plus 12 on the inside here. So I'm going to put 16 on the inside of the square root bracket. And then that's all I've done there. I'm going to put my division, and then 2 times 1 on the bottom, I can go ahead and multiply that 2. So I have -2 plus or minus the square root of 16 all over 2. So the next thing, to find the square root of 16. What is the square root of 16? Well, the square root of 16 is 4. So as I continue to simplify this and follow the order of operations, I'm going to have, let me make sure I'm not writing on my face. I'm going to have x equals -2 plus or minus 4 all divided by 2. So we've done a bunch of operations already. We've gotten rid of that square root bracket. We've done the multiplication on the bottom of my fraction. So my question now is, what on earth is plus or minus? That thing in front of the 4. It looks like a plus sign and a minus sign. I keep calling it plus or minus. This is where the path in the forest diverges, and we go in kind of 2 different directions at once. This is how we're going to end up with 2 different x values. So on the one hand, this is going to be -2 plus 4 divided by 2. On the other hand, this is going to be -2 minus 4 all divided by 2. So -2 plus 4 is going to be 2 over 2, which is positive 1. -2 minus 4 is going to be -6 over 2, which is a -3. So I go as far as I can, and I should end up with 2 pretty simple answers. And you might notice if you watched the previous video, this is the same quadratic function, and I end up with the same answers. I end up with -3. Sorry. I end up with -3 as one of my possible x values, and I end up with positive 1 as the other one. So again, you know, my graph is going to end up looking kind of like this. It's exact same graph. I got the exact same answers, but I used a different method. And you might be able to tell even just from the length of this video, this is a faster method. It looks much more intimidating if I go back to this, and I'm just looking at -b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. If I'm just looking at that, that is very intimidating because there's a lot of things going on there. But once I substitute my values, and then I just start following the order of operations. You know, I take care of all my parentheses, I take care of all my brackets first, and then I look for all my multiplication and division, I look for all of my addition and subtraction, and I just kind of continue going along these lines. I'm going to end up with a pretty simple process. It's pretty straightforward. There's actually no algebra involved in anything we just did, besides the substitution at the very beginning. There's really no algebra involved. So I don't know which method of solving quadratic functions appeals more to you. Sometimes factoring might be faster. Sometimes quadratic equation might be faster. The good thing about the quadratic equation is it works every time, guaranteed. If a quadratic function has solutions, the quadratic equation will find them for you. So this has been 3 videos on quadratic functions. I hope that these have been helpful. Thank you for watching.